The air on the 60th floor didn't taste like oxygen, it tasted like money and absolute silence. Up here, above the smog of the city, the penthouse corridor stretched out like the throat of a beast, waiting to swallow something whole. The carpet was thick enough to bury a sound, and the shadows between the amber lights were heavy, behaving less like an absence of light and more like a living, breathing presence. This wasn't just a CEO's office. It was a hunting ground disguised in chrome and black wood, where the only rule was to remain unseen, because in a world ruled by immortals, being noticed is usually a death sentence. The elevator doors sealed shut with a whisper that sounded too much like a coffin closing. Brishen pressed herself against the mirrored wall, watching the floor numbers climb in glowing blue digits that hurt her eyes. 47. 48. Each ascending number pulled her further from the safety of the ground, further from the possibility of running back to the cramped apartment where her mother lay coughing into blood-stained tissues. The cleaning cart rattled beside her, wheels squeaking against the polished floor. She'd stolen her mother's uniform from the hook by the door while Elistran slept, fever-bright and muttering about lilacs and someone named Lys. The fabric hung loose on Brishen's small frame, sleeves rolled 3 times, hem dragging. She'd stuffed newspaper into the orthopedic shoes to keep them from sliding off her feet. 59. 60. The penthouse level. Her reflection stared back at her from every angle. 10 years old, with eyes too large for her face and hair the color of winter moonlight, not blonde, not silver. Something in between that made people look twice, then look away quickly as if they'd seen something they shouldn't. Her mother had the same hair, though Elistran's had dulled with sickness and poverty. The elevator chimed, a sound like crystal breaking. The doors opened onto a corridor that didn't belong in the same building as the lower floors. Down in the lobby, everything was chrome and glass and the artificial brightness of a place that wanted to pretend it was daytime. Here the walls were the color of old wine, lit by fixtures that cast pools of amber light at careful intervals. Between the pools, shadows gathered thick as velvet. Cold air breathed against her face. Not the recycled chill of air conditioning, but something older. Something that made the hair on her arms stand up beneath the 2 large sleeves. She pushed the cart forward. The wheels made no sound on the carpet that swallowed her footsteps. Ahead, a single door stood at the end of the corridor, black wood inlaid with silver that caught the light like ice-catching moonlight. The CEO's office. Lysander Kalen's domain. Monster, the other cleaners called him. The man who never smiled, who could fire someone with a glance, whose meetings ran until dawn because he never seemed to need sleep. Brishen had heard the whispers in the break room when she'd brought her mother forgotten lunches, heard how people's voices dropped when they said his name, as if speaking too loudly might summon him. Her mother cleaned his office every night, alone, always alone, because no one else would take the assignment. The pay was triple the standard rate, and Elistran needed every cent for the medications that barely kept her breathing. But tonight Elistran couldn't stand without collapsing. Tonight the fever had climbed so high that she didn't recognize her own daughter. Tonight Brishen had forged her mother's signature on the timesheet and prayed that no one looked too closely at the small figure in the oversized uniform. She reached the door. Her hand trembled as she pulled out the access card she'd taken from her mother's purse. The scanner beside the door glowed red, waiting, judging. What if it didn't work? What if the system tracked biometrics or weight sensors in the floor had already flagged an anomaly? What if security was already on the way, and she'd be arrested, and her mother would wake up alone with no one to bring water, or call the ambulance when the coughing got too bad? Brishen pressed the card against the scanner. Red light washed over her face. Her heart stopped. then green. Soft, accepting green, and the lock disengaged with a click that sounded like permission. She pushed the door open and stepped into another world. The office stretched before her like a cathedral built to worship efficiency. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around two walls, offering a view of the city that glittered 60 stories below. The skyline looked like scattered diamonds on black velvet, beautiful and untouchable. The other walls were lined with shelves that held books with leather spines and titles in languages she didn't recognize. The desk dominated the center of the room. Black glass and steel, its surface empty except for a single lamp with a green shade that cast a pool of light across the dark surface. Behind it, a chair that looked more like a throne. Everything smelled wrong. Not dirty, but sterile, antiseptic, like a hospital where nothing living was allowed to leave its mark. No coffee rings, no fingerprints on the glass, no dust motes dancing in the air. Brishen's throat tightened. She forced herself to move, to pull out the cleaning supplies, and start with the windows like her mother always did. The spray bottle felt heavy in her small hands. She pumped the trigger, and the chemical smell of the cleaner cut through the antiseptic air, almost comforting in its familiarity. She wiped the glass in careful circles, the way Elistron had taught her. Don't leave streaks. Don't miss the corners. Pretend you're invisible, because to people like him you are. But as she worked, her eyes kept drifting to the desk, to the drawers that might hold something, anything, that could explain why this job paid so much. Why her mother came home from these shifts, looking drained and confused, with gaps in her memory and bruises on her wrists that she couldn't explain. Brishen set down the spray bottle. Her feet carried her to the desk before her mind could argue. The surface reflected her face, distorted and ghostly in the black glass. She reached for the top drawer. It opened silently, revealing folders arranged with military precision. Her fingers hovered over them, not quite touching. Employee files, contract negotiations, acquisition proposals, nothing personal, nothing human. The second drawer held the same. The third, the bottom drawer, stuck. She pulled harder, and it slid open with a whisper of resistance. Inside, a single photograph in a silver frame, face down as if hidden. Brishen lifted it with both hands. The frame was cold enough to burn. The photograph showed a woman laughing, her head thrown back, silver hair catching sunlight. She stood in a garden filled with lilacs, their purple blooms so vivid they seemed to pulse with life. The woman wore a sundress and no shoes, and her hand reached toward whoever held the camera, fingers spread as if to pull them into the frame, into the moment, into the laughter. The woman was her mother, younger, healthy, radiant, alive in a way Brishen had never seen her. Her hands shook. The frame slipped. She caught it, but her palm pressed against the glass, and something beneath the surface pulsed, a warmth that spread up her arm like recognition, like greeting. The office lights flickered. Every screen on the desk blazed to life simultaneously, displaying a single word in red letters: authorized. Brishen dropped the frame back into the drawer and slammed it shut. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She backed away from the desk, mind racing. What had she done? What had she triggered? She had to leave. Now, before someone came to investigate, before the door opened. She spun around, pressing herself against the desk. A man stepped into the office, tall enough that he had to be careful of the door frame. He wore a suit the color of midnight, perfectly tailored, and moved with the fluid grace of something that had never been clumsy, never been uncertain. His face was beautiful in the way that winter was beautiful, sharp and cold and merciless. Dark hair swept back from a high forehead. eyes that caught the light and held it, reflecting it back like mirrors. Those eyes found her immediately, pinned her in place. He went completely still, not the stillness of someone surprised, but the stillness of a predator that had just spotted unexpected prey. The silence stretched. Brishen couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stare as his expression shifted through emotions too quick to name. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, dangerous, the kind of soft that preceded violence. Turn around. Brishen's lungs refused to work. The command hung in the air between them, sharp as broken glass. Turn around. She couldn't. If she turned, he would see her face, see her eyes, the golden rings that marked her as something impossible, something that shouldn't exist in his world of pure bloodlines and ancient hierarchies. But disobeying him felt equally impossible. The weight of his presence pressed against her like a physical thing, heavy and cold and absolute. This was the man who ruled from the top floor, the one her mother cleaned for in the dead hours, moving through his spaces like a ghost, careful never to disturb, never to be seen. Brishen's fingers found the edge of the desk behind her. The wood felt solid beneath her palms, real, the only anchor in a moment that had tilted sideways into nightmare. I won't ask again. His voice dropped lower, silk over steel. She turned, slowly, her body moving through the motion like wading through deep water, every second stretching into eternity. The city lights behind her cast her shadow long across the floor. She kept her head down, chin tucked, hair falling forward to curtain her face. Maybe in the darkness, maybe with the backlight, he wouldn't see clearly. Maybe, look at me. The command carried something else now. Not anger, something stranger. His voice had changed, gone tight and breathless, in a way that made no sense for someone so powerful, so utterly in control. Brishen lifted her head. The moment their eyes met, the air in the room changed, became charged. Electric, like the seconds before lightning strikes, when every hair on your body rises and the world holds its breath. He took a step back, actually stumbled. His shoulder hit the doorframe, and his hand shot out to steady himself, fingers splaying against the wood. For 3 heartbeats, he just stared at her, his face gone completely blank. Then his expression cracked, shattered, reformed into something that looked like pain. No, the word came out rough. Broken. That's not possible. Brishen's throat closed. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't obey, wanted to speak, but had no words. Could only stand there as he pushed away from the door and moved toward her with steps that ate up the distance too quickly. He stopped just beyond arm's reach. Close enough that she could see the way his chest moved with breaths he probably didn't need. Close enough to catch the scent of him, winter and old paper and something darker, something that made her hybrid blood sing with recognition, even as her human half screamed danger. Your eyes. His voice had gone soft again, but different now, wondering, almost reverent. Where did you get those eyes? She couldn't answer, couldn't form words around the terror lodging in her throat. He crouched down, slowly, deliberately, bringing himself to her level, though even kneeling he was tall enough that they were nearly eye to eye. This close, she could see the details her mother had never mentioned. The way his irises caught the light and reflected it back in shades of silver and deep blue. The sharp line of his jaw, the small scar, almost invisible, cutting through his left eyebrow. The rings. He reached out, then stopped himself, his hand hovering in the air between them. Gold rings around the pupil. Do you know what that means? Do you understand what you're showing me? Brishen shook her head. A tiny motion. A lie. It's the royal mark. His hand dropped, the bloodline signature of the first house. My house. But that's impossible because I have no children. I've never... He stopped. His eyes widened. What's your name? Brishen. It came out as a whisper. Brishen. He repeated it, like he was testing the weight of it. And your mother, what's your mother's name? The question landed like a blow. Brishen's heart kicked against her ribs. She thought of her mother in their tiny apartment, asleep in the bedroom with its peeling wallpaper and the window that wouldn't quite close. Thought of the way Lysander never spoke about the past, never mentioned Brishen's father, deflected every question with practiced ease. I can't. Her voice broke. Tell me. Not a command now, a plea. His composure was cracking, piece by piece, revealing something raw beneath. Please. Lysander. The name escaped before she could stop it. Lysander Yarrow. The effect was immediate. Devastating. He rocked back on his heels, like she'd struck him. His face went through a series of expressions too quick to track. Shock, recognition, anguish, fury. His hands clenched into fists against his thighs. Lysander. He breathed the name like a prayer, like a curse. She told me, they said she was dead. After the memory wipe, after they... He stopped, swallowed hard. You're hers. You're her daughter. Brishen nodded, tiny, terrified. He stood abruptly, turned away, paced to the window and pressed his palms against the glass, his shoulders rigid beneath the perfect lines of his suit. The city sprawled below them, oblivious. Millions of lights, millions of lives. None of them aware that something fundamental was shifting in this room, in this moment. How old are you? His voice was carefully controlled now, too controlled. 10. His shoulders tensed. 10 years. A decade. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Only bitterness. They told me she died in the procedure, that the memory wipe had complications, that she... He stopped. Drew in a breath that shuddered. They lied. The council lied to me. Brishen didn't understand, couldn't piece together what he was saying. Memory wipe, council. But the pain in his voice was unmistakable, real. It made him seem less like the untouchable CEO and more like something breakable. He turned back to face her. His eyes were bright, too bright. Does she remember me? Your mother. Does she speak of me? No. The word came out small, honest. She doesn't remember anything from before I was born. She says it's like there's a blank space where those years should be. Something in his expression crumpled. He closed his eyes. Of course, they would have been thorough. They always are. When he opened them again, they fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to shrink back. But you exist, you're here, which means... He trailed off, shook his head. Do you know what you are, Brishen? She nodded. Slowly. Say it. Hybrid. The word tasted like ash, like all the years of hiding. Half human, half vampire. Not just any vampire. He moved closer again, knelt down once more. This time he did reach out, his hand hovering near her face, but not quite touching. My blood, my line. The first house. Do you understand? You're not just a hybrid. You're my daughter. The words hung in the air. Impossible. True. Brishen felt them settle into her bones, into the marrow of her, rearranging everything she thought she knew. I didn't know. His voice cracked. I swear to you I didn't know. If I had known, if I had even suspected. He stopped, drew back. You shouldn't be here. This building, this place, it's not safe for you. If the council finds out, if anyone discovers what you are, they'll kill me. She'd known this her whole life, known it in the way her mother checked the locks 3 times before bed, in the way they moved apartments every 2 years, in the way Elistran had taught her to hide, to blend, to never draw attention. Yes, he didn't soften it, didn't lie. The old laws are absolute. Hybrids are forbidden. Abominations, they call them. The punishment for creating one is death, for both parent and child. Then why are you telling me this? The question burst out of her. Why not turn me in? His face transformed. The coldness melted away, replaced by something fierce and protective, and utterly foreign to the man who'd walked through that door. Because you're mine, my blood, my daughter, and I have spent 10 years believing the woman I loved was dead, that the child we created was lost. I won't lose you again. The door burst open. A woman strode in, moving with predatory grace. She wore a suit in deep crimson, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe knot. Her eyes, pure vampire silver, swept the room and landed on Brishen with immediate hostility. Lysander. Her voice was smooth, cultured, dangerous. Security reported an unauthorized presence in your office. I came as quickly as... She stopped. Her gaze sharpened on Brishen. What is this? A child? How did a human child breach our security? Lysander rose to his full height, placed himself between Brishen and the woman. Drea, this doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me? Drea Vane Brishen recognized her now from the photos in the trade magazines her mother sometimes brought home, the woman who ran the European operations, who was rumored to be next in line for the council, laughed. Cold. Sharp. An intruder in the CEO's office doesn't concern the head of security. I think it concerns me very much. She moved forward. Lysander shifted to block her. Stand aside. Drea's voice dropped to something lethal. Whatever sympathy you're feeling for this little rat, it ends now. She's broken into a restricted area, accessed private files. The penalty is clear. She's not a rat. Lysander's voice was quiet, absolute. And you will not touch her. Look at her eyes, Lysander. Drea's lip curled. Really look. Those rings, that's not human. That's not even pure vampire. That's, I know what she is. The words fell like stones. Drea went still. Her eyes widened fractionally. You know? She breathed the question. You know, and you're protecting her? Have you lost your mind? The laws. Damn the laws. This is treason. This is Drea's hand moved. Fast. Reaching for something at her belt. A weapon. A communicator. Something. Lysander was faster. He caught her wrist mid-motion. His grip looked gentle, but Drea's face went white. She gasped, tried to pull back, couldn't move. I said. Lysander's voice dropped to something that made the temperature in the room plummet. You will not touch her. Drea bared her teeth. The council will hear about this. They'll demand answers. And when they find out what she is, when they discover you've been harboring, let them come. He released her wrist, pushed her back, stepped forward, forcing her toward the door through presence alone. Let them try to take her from me. I am the first house. I am the bloodline from which they all descend. And this child, he glanced back at Brishen. His expression softened for just a moment. This child is mine. Drea stared at him. Comprehension dawned slowly across her face. No, you can't mean, get out of my office, Drea. Lysander, think about what you're doing. Think about what this means. If she's your daughter, if you acknowledge her, you're signing your own death warrant. The council won't allow. Out. The word cracked through the air like thunder. Drea flinched. Actually flinched. For a moment, she looked like she might argue, might push. Then survival instinct won. She backed toward the door, her eyes never leaving Lysander's face. "This isn't over," she said softly. "You know it isn't." "No." Lysander's smile was sharp. "Dangerous. It's just beginning." Drea left. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded too loud in the sudden silence. Lysander stood there for a long moment, his back to Brishen, his shoulders rising and falling with breaths that came too quick. Then he turned, looked at her, really looked at her, taking in every detail, her worn shoes, her too big jacket, the way she was shaking. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "I promise you. No one will hurt you." But Brishen heard the lie in it. Not a lie of intent. He meant it, she could tell. But a lie of possibility. Because they both knew the truth. The council was coming, and when they did, promises wouldn't be enough to save her. Lysander crossed the room, knelt in front of her one more time. This time he did touch her, just his hand on her shoulder. Gentle, careful, like she was made of glass. "I need you to trust me," he said. "Can you do that?" Brishen looked into his eyes, saw her own gold rings reflected back, saw the determination there, the fierce protectiveness, the fear he was trying so hard to hide. She nodded. "Good." He stood, held out his hand. "Then come with me. We don't have much time." Once Drea reaches the council, the lights went out. All of them. Every screen, every lamp. The city below vanished as the windows polarized to black. The only illumination came from the emergency strips along the floor, casting everything in dim red. Lysander's hand found hers in the darkness. His grip was iron. "They're already here," he whispered. And then the door exploded inward. The door didn't just open. It shattered. Splinters of reinforced wood and twisted metal scattered across the marble floor, and through the smoking wreckage came figures in black tactical gear, moving with inhuman speed and precision. Night staff, elite enforcers, their eyes glowed amber in the emergency lighting. Lysander shoved Brishen behind him. She felt the shift in his body, muscles coiling, temperature dropping until frost formed on his jacket. The air itself seemed to contract around him. "Stand down." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The command rolled through the room like thunder before a storm. "I am your sovereign. Stand down." The lead enforcer hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then a woman's voice cut through the darkness, smooth as poisoned honey. "The council has revoked your authority, Lysander. Temporarily, of course." Drea Vane stepped through the ruined doorway, immaculate in her white suit, despite the chaos. Her smile was sharp enough to draw blood. "Harboring an unregistered hybrid is a capital offense, even for you." Brishen's fingers dug into the back of Lysander's jacket. She could feel the tension vibrating through him, could smell the ozone scent that meant his power was building. The emergency lights flickered, dimmed, the temperature plummeted. "You have no proof," Lysander said. Each word was carved from ice. "Don't I?" Drea gestured, and one of the enforcers produced a tablet. Even from behind Lysander, Brishen could see the thermal scan on the screen, her body outlined in impossible colors, the dual heat signatures of human metabolism and vampire cold burning in her chest, like competing suns. "Biometric analysis from your own security system, blood type anomalies, cellular regeneration rates. Shall I continue?" The floor beneath Brishen's feet was so cold now it burned through her worn sneakers. Lysander's hand found hers again, squeezed once. A message. "Trust me. The child is under my protection," he said. "Remove yourselves from my tower. Now." Drea laughed. Actually laughed, the sound bright and terrible. "Your tower? Lysander, You misunderstand. The council owns everything, including you. She took a step forward. The enforcers moved with her, a synchronized wave of predatory intent. The hybrid comes with us. You can cooperate and retain some dignity, or we can make this unpleasant. Your choice. Brishen felt Lysander's grip tighten, felt the moment he made his decision. It happened in the space between heartbeats, his hand releasing hers, his body shifting forward, and then he moved. She'd never seen anyone move like that. One moment he was standing in front of her, the next he was across the room, his hand around Drea's throat, lifting her off the ground. The enforcers rushed forward, but Lysander's other hand swept out, and 3 of them went flying, their bodies hitting the walls hard enough to crack the reinforced concrete. You forget yourself, Drea. His voice was quiet again, deadly. I am not some corporate figurehead. I am the first, the progenitor. I have walked this earth for centuries, while empires rose and fell. Do you truly believe your council can command me? Drea's face was turning purple, but she managed to choke out words. Kill her, and you prove them right. Lysander froze. His eyes, black now, no white left at all, flicked to Brishen. She saw the war happening behind them, the monster and the man fighting for control. Please. Brishen's voice came out small, scared. Please don't. She wasn't sure what she was asking for. Don't kill Drea? Don't lose yourself? Don't leave me alone? Maybe all of it. Lysander's hand opened. Drea dropped, gasping, clutching her throat. The remaining enforcers had their weapons trained on him now, sleek silver things that hummed with ultraviolet energy. Vampire killers. Stand down, Drea rasped. All of you, stand down. The enforcers didn't move, didn't lower their weapons, but they didn't fire either. Drea straightened, smoothing her suit with shaking hands. When she looked at Lysander, something had changed in her expression. Fear, yes, but also a strange kind of respect. The council wants the hybrid. That's non-negotiable. But, she paused, calculated. But perhaps we can discuss terms, if you're willing to cooperate fully. Submit to investigation. Prove your ignorance of her existence. No. Lysander's voice was steady now, human again. No terms, no negotiation. The child stays with me. Then you're a traitor to your own kind. Perhaps. He moved back to Brishen, positioned himself between her and every weapon in the room. Or perhaps I'm finally remembering what it means to be more than a monster in a suit. Drea's eyes narrowed. You'll lose everything. Your company, your seat, your legacy. I've already lost everything that mattered. His hand found Brishen's again. Warm now. Steady. I won't lose her too. The silence stretched. Brishen could hear her own heartbeat, too fast, too loud. Could hear the electric hum of the weapons. Could hear Drea's breathing, still ragged from being choked. Then Drea smiled. Not her corporate smile. Something sadder, almost human. You really don't know, do you? She shook her head. Lysander, you fool. Look at her. Really look at her. I am looking at her. No, you're looking at a hybrid, a problem to be solved. Look at her face, her eyes. Drea's voice softened, just slightly. Look at her, and tell me you don't see it. Lysander went very still. Brishen felt his attention shift, felt the weight of his gaze as he turned to study her. She wanted to look away, wanted to hide, but something made her meet his eyes instead. He was tall, scary, but his eyes were sad, and in the dim red emergency lighting, she watched those sad eyes widen, watched understanding dawn like a terrible sunrise. His hand came up slowly, trembling, brushed her hair back from her face, revealing what she'd kept hidden under her hood for so long. One eye brown like her mother's, one eye gold like... "No," Lysander whispered. "No, that's not possible." 10 years ago, Drea said quietly. "A cleaner named Yarrow. You had a brief relationship. Before the council found out. Before they wiped her memory and sent her away." Brishen watched the color drain from Lysander's face. Watched his hand drop. Watched him take a step back. Then another, like she'd burned him. "I have a daughter," he said. "Not a question. A statement of impossible fact. You have a daughter," Drea confirmed. "And the council has known for months. They've been waiting, watching, gathering evidence. They wanted to see if you'd claim her, if you'd choose her over them." She paused. "Congratulations, Lysander. You just made your choice." The weapons lowered. The enforcers stepped back, and Drea turned toward the ruined door, her heels clicking on debris-strewn marble. "You have until dawn," she said without looking back. "After that, the council will come for both of you. I suggest you use the time wisely." Then she was gone, the enforcers following, the emergency lights flickering back to normal, and Brishen was alone with the man who was her father, watching him stare at her like she was a ghost. "My mother," Brishen said. Her voice was steady now. "Certain. She's sick, dying. She needs you." Lysander's mouth opened, closed. He looked lost, broken. Nothing like the powerful CEO who'd faced down armed enforcers moments ago. "Please," Brishen said. "I'll go with the council. I'll do whatever they want. Just save her first. Please." That broke through. Lysander's eyes focused, sharpened. "Show me." They took his private elevator down past the corporate floors and the residential levels, down to the parking structure where a black car waited. Lysander drove in silence, following Brishen's whispered directions through streets that grew narrower and darker with each turn. The apartment building looked worse at night. The broken security door, the graffiti-tagged walls, the smell of garbage and desperation. Lysander said nothing, but Brishen saw his jaw tighten, saw his hands grip the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. The stairs creaked under their weight. 3rd floor, the door with the peeling paint and the number that hung crooked. Brishen's hands shook as she unlocked it. Inside, the darkness felt thick, heavy, like something alive and hungry, but Lysander's presence seemed to push it back. Where he walked, the shadows retreated. The air grew warmer, cleaner. Elistrin lay in the bedroom, so still Brishen's heart stopped for a moment. But then she saw the shallow rise and fall of her mother's chest, still breathing, still fighting. "Mama," Brishen whispered. "I brought help." Lysander moved to the bedside, knelt. His hand hovered over Elistrin's face, not quite touching, trembling with something that might have been fear or wonder or grief. "I remember," he said softly. "I remember her laugh, the way she hummed while she worked, the way she looked at me like I was just a man, not a monster." His voice broke. "They took that from her, from both of us." He touched her then, just his fingertips against her temple, and Brishen watched her mother's eyes flutter open, watched confusion give way to recognition, watched tears spill down hollow cheeks. "Lysander." Lystrin's voice was paper-thin. "But how?" "I'm here," he said. "I'm so sorry. I'm here now." He bit his own wrist, let his blood, dark and ancient and powerful, drip between her lips. Brishen watched her mother's body convulse once, twice, then go still, watched color return to her face, watched the shadows flee the room entirely, banished by something stronger than darkness. When Elistran opened her eyes again, they were clear, bright, alive, and Lysander gathered both of them close, his daughter and the woman he'd loved, and held them as dawn broke over the city outside, held them as the world changed, held them like he'd never let go. The council would come, there would be consequences, battles yet to fight. But for now, in this small room that smelled of hope instead of death, they were whole, they were family, they were home.